When you're looking at realism images like this, it looks like super complicated, but once you break it down, you understand that cylinder or realism all of a sudden becomes a lot of fun and very easy. Hello dear friends, today I'd like to show you a tattoo that our member Dylan from the mentorship group at C23 Labs made for us, and it's a perfect example of a few things we can learn about realism and shape, and more specifically understanding shape and form when you're tattooing realism and how to read your references. I think Dylan missed a little bit in this reference, and it's not very clear because this reference is actually a drawing, and all drawings aren't like completely true to nature. So he could have improved this tattoo a little bit with some of this realism understanding. And that is that everything has a gradient. Every shape has a fade. So if I, for example, I use one of the most simple examples is the tube. You've probably all seen this from like drawing class. Like this. Here we have a tube, and let's say that the light is coming from here. That means that this side will be bright, and then this side will be dark. And so anything that is round, like this one, it's round like this, it'll have a gradual fade. Okay, so I'm going to try to draw that now. If I just make it like a solid fade, it won't look very three-dimensional, right? What we want to do is create a harder line here that's like really dark, and then we want to really make sure we're in control of how gradually this tone fades towards the light. That fade is really, really important. Even if it's a really, really small fade, the fact that the tone goes from this darkness to this darkness is very, very important because it explains shape to our brains, okay? So even if it's a really, really small section, like here on the arms, along this line here, there needs to be a little fade. There need to be one, okay? And we can actually kind of hint that here, that there is a bit of tone here. Let's see. There's a bit of tone right here that we can't really see. But when you don't add that and you just add this line here, it gets really flat. So what I would have done is actually given it a bit of a fade like this, very gently. And even if it's like the smallest little fade, it's a really short fade. It only goes like a few millimeters, but if it exists, it's really, really impactful in the big picture. You can see here, if I just draw really, really quickly, that we make this little gradient, and I would whip shade this if I were to tattoo it, you know, whip shade this way. So when you whip shade, you get this little natural fade almost. And so all of a sudden, we can get a bit more shape out of this arm because it is a cylindrical arm, right? So we want to add a little bit. And actually in the reference, there is one, but it's a very blurry reference. It's hard to read. But even here, there is a fade this way. And there's a few veins and stuff in between. But if you look closely, there's a hard edge and then a fade this way. And if we capture that, we're going to make a very nice tattoo. Another really great example where this comes out is in the muscles of his body. You can see these little fades here really, really, really clearly. I'm going to show you. And if we capture them, we can do some really, really beautiful work. First one I would say is obviously here in those muscles, and then here. We have them everywhere, in fact. So if I just like quickly redraw this, I can show you how easy it is and how quickly it is to actually draw your own realism once you understand this very, very fundamental principle. It starts to like all of a sudden make sense when you're looking at a reference. You just understand it. Let me show you. I'm going to sketching, my little peppermint pen here. Okay, let's see. Let me draw just quickly his ab muscles here. Just an outline like that, and the navel. Okay, and then we go here, there. This one looks like that, kind of. And then here. Okay, and the light is coming from here, right? Or actually, sorry, here. This is probably better. Yeah, because we have this light here, and then both side and the underside. So it's about from here. Okay, so since these muscles are very curvy, see they poke out, right? Like he has very distinct shapes. We need to apply that cylinder idea that everything has a fade. Everything has a tone that fades. If it's a smooth shape, that tone will sort of fade gradually. And if we just apply that type of thinking to these shapes here, you're going to see how quickly they start to look pretty three-dimensional. Okay, see there's a bit of a fade here. And then we can go in here. And since the shapes are really, really pronounced, there's these creases, and we go a little bit harder in here. As we can see in the reference, it's like really sharp creases, no body fat. And so we can easily illustrate these just by focusing on getting that fade that goes that way. It's really all about capturing that shape and understanding why it looks like that. When I was a kid, I used to beg my dad to draw for me. And I loved when he drew faces or skulls for me. My dad was a very, very good draftsman, an artist, and he taught me a lot of things, especially about realism. So what he did when I asked him to draw a face, I got a bit pissed off when he did it, but he was actually teaching me a lesson about just this, light and form. So I asked, Dad, please draw me a face, a realistic face, so that it looks real. And he said, okay, I will do it. And then he did this. Let's go up here. He basically did this. So simply and quickly. I was like, what the fuck? That's just like some blocks of tone, right? And he said, yes, but don't you see the face? You know, like, and then he would develop it a little bit. Let's do a jawline and a shadow. Now we're starting to get a neck here. And let's do some ears, like that. You see, if we just understand the basics of how light hits objects, we're actually able to make something look pretty three-dimensional and real with very, very few means. And that applies to these muscles. This same tactic is this too. All we're doing is understanding how light kind of hits objects. And I had another lesson in the Black and Gray Micro Realism course about not making tattoos too detailed, but instead making them feel detailed by making them feel realistic. And in order to make an image feel realistic, we don't have to add so much detail. We just have to add the right details and the right shadows for our brains to look at the image and, in this case, see a face. You know, it's about understanding where are those key shadows and how do they look, you know? And then from there, we can kind of carefully continue rendering the image. And so this is really, really simple because it all starts with understanding those core shapes. And when I look at a tattoo like this, I get bothered by not having these little fades. You see here, this is a shape, and the shape goes like that. It's a curved shape. And you remember the cylinder? There is a fade. Hard or less hard, but there is still a fade. Look at that. So adding all these little fades is really important. We can see it here too, for example. On the trap here, this shape, there's a fade going this way. It's a really short one because it gets really bright here, but trust me, here, there's a little shade going that way. And if we capture that, we will get a really nice three-dimensional looking tattoo. So never leave like hard lines like that. Sometimes you can, but you want to create these little mini fades everywhere. You see? This is a very small part of the design, but it really makes a difference. And we can also see it really well here. We can just enhance these edges a little bit, make it feel even more like a little fade. And I would whip shade that, like careful whip shades from the edge into the tattoo, like that, shading in this direction if I was tattooing this. So yeah, this was a little lesson on how to better understand realism when you're looking at it and how to just make a better tattoo out of your references. I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.
Hope you've enjoyed watching this seminar. If you're looking for more lessons and seminars like this, you can visit c23labs.io, where you can access things like our online communities, where you can get your tattoos critiqued by me and my team. You can also get guided roadmaps and seminars on learning tattoo designing, and how to manage and grow your social media and learn critical business skills as a tattoo artist. See you again in the next lesson.